Whether you're playing on DraftKings, FanDuel, Underdog, or wherever, let's talk about the top stacks this week for Sunday's main slate in a quick mini video. Caleb Williams versus a Dallas defense that gave up 450 yards and 3 touchdowns to Russell Wilson in week 2 is going to be a very popular play this week. If you are worried that the performance from the Cowboys defense was an anomaly, you can look to week 1, which wasn't a high passing volume week for Jalen Hurts in the Philadelphia offense, but it was a very strong efficiency day for Hurts, completing 19 of 23 passes. More importantly, though, it was an excellent day for Hurts on the ground with 62 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Caleb Williams offers a good blend of the upside that both Hurts and Wilson had against the Cowboys, with the ability to produce both on the ground and through the air. The natural stack here is Rome Odunze. Rome has had an incredible start to the season with a total of 13 receptions on 20 targets for over 150 yards and 3 touchdowns thus far. Odunze has clearly taken over as the wide receiver 1 of this offense, with DJ Moore failing to exceed 6 targets in a single game and being pushed down in terms of production. On the other side of the ball, Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and George Pickens all offer potential stacks here, very appealing, plus Jake Ferguson as well. Prescott's week 2 performance of over 350 yards and 2 touchdowns stands out, and despite week 1 being underwhelming from a fantasy perspective, he did look good overall. Prescott is a strong play against a Chicago defense that was absolutely torn apart by Jared Goff last week. Points are expected to fly in this matchup, but pinpointing the right stack for Prescott, that is very interesting. Pickens had the flashier performance last week with the touchdown, but I do think that this is the week that we are in line for a potential massive game from CeeDee Lamb. Lamb's start to the season has been impressive, but it just feels like he's not reaching his true actual ceiling. He's eclipsed 100 yards in each of the first 2 games. That's amazing, but again, it feels like we are on the cusp of something bigger. Last week's Amon-Ra St. Brown 100-yard, 3-touchdown game against Chicago, I suspect that this is the week in the matchup that we finally see CeeDee Lamb hit the end zone here. Going with Pickens as a stack is very much in play. The same goes for Ferguson, and cost-wise, a double stack with CeeDee Lamb and either Pickens or Ferguson is actually very doable. Carson Wentz and Justin Jefferson will be a surprisingly popular-ish stack here because Wentz is so incredibly cost-effective. It is less about having faith in Wentz and more about the fact that backup quarterbacks have done very well in Kevin O'Connell's system, and the matchup is ideal against Cincinnati's flailing defense. Stacking with Justin Jefferson is definitely the preferred route rather than using any secondary pieces. An interesting contrarian option would be Justin Herbert this week with either Ladd McConkey or Keenan Allen. The Denver defense is tough, right? But we have seen them allow strong performances to quarterbacks, in particular wide receivers. This tends to happen when you have a receiving core that has a lot of solid pieces. For example, last week, Daniel Jones went away from Michael Pittman, who had the tougher coverage, and leaned into Josh Downs and Tyler Warren. We could see a similar approach from Herbert this week, where theoretically Quentin Johnston should be the one that is matching up with Pat Surtain. That makes stacking Herbert with McConkey, who has had an okay start to the season but really failed to stand out, definitely a possibility here. Or you can go with Keenan Allen, who has been extremely reliable and is a very cost-effective piece to stack this week. It is very possible that the Broncos switch things up and Surtain covers Ladd McConkey, which does lead me towards my overall preference of Herbert and Keenan Allen as the stack here. One quarterback that I love this week is Drake Maye against Pittsburgh. The problem is figuring out who you can actually stack with him. Technically, my preference is just to play Drake Maye and not actually stack him, but this is a video about stacking. So if I had to pick someone, I would go with Hunter Henry or Kayshon Boutte. Last week, Maye was a big play for me with the stack of Henry. That Henry part, it did not work out, but it is not unusual for Henry to have inconsistent volume and then turn around and have a fantastic day, so he is still in play this week. The other route would be to go with Kayshon Boutte. He didn't have significant targets last week, just 1 catch, 1 touchdown, but he is the dominating receiver there in terms of snaps and routes. If you want to take a bet on one of them in terms of receivers, it is Kayshon Boutte. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel for more fantasy football content like this.